Hello, my name is Tarna Campbell. I'm a registered nursing student at Germanna Community College. Today we're going to be doing an interview with Casey Hall. She is a certified doula, and we're going to be asking her some interview questions associated with what she does and how it benefits people in our community. How are you doing today, Casey?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well. Just want to ask you a few questions. I was wondering, so how long have you been a doula?
A little over a year now.
Okay. Where did you get your training from?
I started in massage school when I became a massage therapist. After I finished their 630-hour program, I took a prenatal massage program, and that kind of morphed me into being a certified prenatal massage therapist. And then I kind of wanted to expand my services to my clients, and so I decided to become a doula as well. I completed training through the Doula organization.
So what services do you provide in your role as a doula?
Well, for my clients, I provide a prenatal massage during their pregnancy. I also provide birth doula services, so I attend their labor and delivery and provide massage and counter pressure and support, things like that. I photograph their entire labor and delivery. I also provide postpartum follow-up and breastfeeding support as well.
So how do you usually advertise and get your information out there? Because not a lot of people are aware of the services of a doula.
Most of my advertising comes through Facebook or word of mouth. Most of my clients that I've worked with in the past were on Fort Meade, and so it's a pretty close-knit community of military spouses, and they all kind of share their experiences with each other.
All right. So for a time frame, so you said that you usually start prenatally.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning and while they're going through pregnancy, about how long do you extend your services to the woman after delivery?
It varies by person to person. Some couples choose to look into hiring a doula really early in their pregnancy. Some decide to wait until about the middle to the end of their pregnancy to determine if there are going to be any complications, if they're going to be able to relatively stick to their birth plan they want, whether it's having a natural birth or a home birth or a birth center, anything like that. And then usually I will continue working with them until about 2 to 3 weeks postpartum, just to follow up, make sure everything's going well with breastfeeding and recovery. And usually we maintain friendships much longer after that. I get birth announcements and Christmas cards and things like that.
What facilities do you usually work to? Do you usually work in? Is it all usually hospital, or have you assisted in home births as well? I know you usually have to have a certified midwife in order to do a delivery. But have you assisted in home birth environments, or is it primarily a hospital?
I had one that was a planned home birth that turned into a hospital delivery, and then I've done a few birth center deliveries as well. But the rest of them have all been in hospitals.
What are the specific standards that doulas have to follow?
Pretty much basic confidentiality standards, basics. You might call a red light.
Go.
So, Casey, what are some standards that doulas follow by?
Through Doula, we have our own code of ethics, which basically pertains to client confidentiality, making sure that you stay with your client when you are supporting them during their labor, so you don't show up and then walk out on them or something like that. Basic HIPAA privacy regulations, and then just normal standards of care, good bedside manner, being attentive, and things like that.
Okay. Are there, for your patients, you probably get people from different levels of their childbearing years and careers. What are some different reasons that they have come to you for your services?
It varies from family to family. Sometimes they just want extra support. Sometimes, especially with military families, if the partner isn't available or if there isn't any family close by, the mother just wants extra, the amount of support she would normally receive from those people, but they're not there. Sometimes people have had bad experiences in previous deliveries where nursing staff wasn't very nice to them, or they had a lot of complications. They want to have a more natural experience this time. It really varies. Sometimes the spouse or the family doesn't support the mother's birthing decisions. I've had quite a few that the mother will tell her mother, oh, I want to go completely naturally, no epidural or anything, and the mother's like, well, you can't do it, kind of thing. So they just kind of want that extra encouragement and extra support to know that, I'm going to be there to remind them of what they really wanted.
Would you say that you are important in advocating for what the mother's wishes are during a very stressful experience in her life?
Absolutely, absolutely. I never make a decision for the family. I will not speak to medical staff on their behalf. But when a nurse or a doctor comes in and says, hey, we're thinking about starting Pitocin, do you want to do that, kind of thing? Typically the family will say, hey, let us discuss it. The nurse or the doctor will leave the room, and they'll kind of turn to me and say, hey, what do you think about this? What are the pros and cons of doing this? And I give them an unbiased opinion so that they can make their own informed decision.
Excellent. So who do you see uses doulas more frequently? Like what kind of, is there any kind of difference in culture? I know you said you had primarily worked in military families. Mm-hmm. Have you worked with any other cultural groups, or have you seen more of a pattern of people who are informed and come to you for your assistance?
Most of my clients have been middle class. Lower class tend to not be very informed about the use of a doula. And then the upper class tend to go for the more experienced, more expensive doulas that offer other services as well. Typically with those kind of doulas you have postpartum care. So they'll actually come in and stay with the family, and they help with midnight feedings and things like that so that the mom can get more rest. But with me, I've seen a pretty broad range of families, from income levels to cultural backgrounds to everything.
Okay. What is the average cost to hire a doula?
The cost varies by location. Down here in Virginia, I've experienced anywhere from about $400 to about $800, and it also varies with what services the doula provides. With me, I charge about $500 for my deliveries, but that includes like your consultation, prenatal appointments, the actual labor and delivery, photography, a prenatal massage before delivery, obviously, and then postpartum support as well. When I was living up in Maryland, most of the doulas up there are about $700 to about $1,500, depending, again, on location and what services they provide.
Does experience also take in a factor? Do the doulas who have been doing it for a lot longer tend to charge more?
Sometimes they do. Typically, doulas that are just starting out will charge a lot less because they're not as experienced. When you're going through your certification process, you have to do 3 deliveries before you can become certified. And so you have to write an evaluation of each of them, document dilation and progress and everything like that throughout the entire delivery. So typically when someone's going through their certification, they offer those services to the families for free. Because again, you're practicing. You don't completely know what you're doing, so it's not really fair to charge someone if you're not going to be at the caliber you should be yet.
That's very interesting. So you consult out of all the do you usually so Casey, out of all the clients that you may consult, how many of them actually do continue with your services, or are there some that you can maybe tell them about your service and you consult and they say, hey, it's not for me, or how many of them generally continue with you?
Everyone that I've consulted with has actually hired me, which is nice. Whenever I have a consultation with a family, I always tell them to interview, 2 or 3 other doulas, because sometimes it's just not a good fit. You want to be comfortable with the person that's going to be in this situation with you. Obviously, it's a pretty intimate situation. Chances are you're going to see your client naked. So you want to be able to trust that person and be able to interact with them without it feeling awkward or pressure or anything.
Cool. Do you feel that your patients benefit from your services personally? Do you feel that they benefit?
Absolutely, absolutely. All of my patients that I've seen have reported that they're happier with their birth experiences. They have a faster recovery. They do better with breastfeeding. There has not been anything negative that my clients have had to say about their birth experiences. Even the ones that completely vary from their birth plan, they don't go as planned at all, they still view it in a more positive light because they had that support, because they had that advocacy through the entire experience.
what is the biggest benefit out of all those that you see, as far as what a doula offers? What is the largest benefit that you think your patients get from your assistance?
Just having a positive birth experience. Like I said, I've worked with clients, from all walks of life type thing. Families that are having their first child, families that are having their fifth child, women that have planned to use pain management as far as like an epidural or new bane or anything like that, or women that want to go completely naturally with a home birth. It just depends on what they want to do. But having a positive birth experience, whatever you want your birth to be, that's what happens, kind of thing. Your ideal birth, if that's what you can achieve, then that's the best experience.
So how many of your patients do they generally, I'm assuming that generally most of your patients come to you because they want more of a natural experience and a natural birth.
Right.
How many of those have ended up in a cesarean?
I've actually only had one cesarean, and she was my first one during my certification. The reason she ended up in a cesarean section, when she was admitted to the hospital because she had meconium in her fluid, with her water birth. She had originally planned a delivery at a birth center, a water birth, but because of the meconium in the fluid, they admitted her to the hospital. When that happened, she'd been up all night, she wasn't really well rested, she got tired very quickly, she wanted to lay down. When she started laying down, she wasn't progressing as much, so they gave her Pitocin. When they gave her Pitocin, her contractions got really strong, really frequent. She wanted to get an epidural. She got the epidural. They had to catheterize her, of course. When they placed the catheter, they did not get it all the way into her bladder, apparently. And so we were hydrating her. We were giving her plenty of water and plenty to drink throughout her labor. And her bladder got so full that the baby's head couldn't come down any further. So she had actually dilated to 8.5 centimeters and still ended up with a C-section after 19 hours of labor. So that was my first one. It was kind of a daunting task. I mean, afterwards I cried a little bit and asked myself if I really wanted to be a doula or not.
I can imagine.
It scared me. But yeah.
How many of your clients have been VBACs or vaginal birth after cesarean? Have you had any of those?
No. I've had multiple births that were natural births after having medicated births, but none of them were after cesarean.
Have you heard about VBACs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm very well informed on those, and happy that they're doing a lot more VBACs now, giving more women the opportunity to have vaginal delivery after C-section.
Would you be willing to accept a client with one of those?
Absolutely.
Just wondering. How do you incorporate other family members into this birthing process, be it other spouses or mothers or generations? How do you incorporate family members so that they don't feel left out?
When I'm first meeting with the client, I always meet with the client and their spouse, or their significant other, their partner, just because I want that other person to be included. I don't want them to feel like their mother's just making all the decisions and they just kind of have to go along with it type deal. During labor and delivery, I will typically tell, the partner, hey, we could try this. We could try this position, or we could try, getting her some water, or I'll show them different moves that I do to help with the pain. Like a common thing for women is lower back pain when they're in labor, and a big way to help that is by squeezing their hips together. And that's a really good thing for, especially the husbands to do, because even they're stronger than I am typically, and it makes them feel important because their wife's in pain, they're fixing it. It makes them feel valued. And then, of course, she's looking at him going, oh, thank you so much, you're helping me.
They're not screaming at the patient, you did this to me!
Right. And the spouse or the partner is typically their first line of support. I'm not there to replace them. I'm not there to step on anyone's toes. I want to be the little bird whispering in their ear, hey, try this, hey, try that. Or if he's, squeezing her hips, then I'm standing in front of her, keeping her focused on her breathing or something like that, getting her something to drink, making sure she's comfortable in other ways than, getting in his way.
How have you worked with siblings?
I've just kind of been encouraging them, like with the photography, especially when mommy's in labor, try to make sure that they're having fun. Sometimes I'll bring like little coloring books with me if I know there are going to be younger kids there. Typically if they have the family that's having the child will have, grandma and grandpa or aunt or uncle, somebody there to kind of help keep look after the kids a little bit. But I typically, families will stick around and they're a little bit longer than they should sometimes. When mommy really starts getting vocal or, things start getting serious, it's almost delivery time. So I'm kind of the facilitator to be like, hey,
Kind of nudge and be like, hey,
Right.
you should probably take the little ones out of here,
Right.
give mommy some space.
Right. Because, some women say things that they might not want their little kids to hear. Or their family members to hear, for instance. Or, they don't want their dad to see things. Or, it just makes everyone else more comfortable.
So you say you do photography, so I'm assuming you would, after the baby's delivered, you have the children and family, they come in, you do photography with them, so
Right.
during the laboring process and afterwards?
Right. I will photograph, obviously the husband and wife working together, the partner and the mother working together, which always makes for really nice, sweet pictures afterwards. So like, oh, you were helping me, you were doing this, you were doing that. 'Cause it's really easy to forget those things in the heat of the moment. Some women like action shots, is what I call them. They want to see baby coming out. Some facilities allow that, some don't. Just depends on, where you're working. And then afterwards, everyone wants that picture the first time they see their baby, or, dad handing the baby to mom, or when everything's calmed down a little bit, I try to get everyone else in the room, see their reactions, grandma's first time holding the baby, things like that.
That's very nice. It's nice to see you incorporated other things along with the assisting with the birth. Do you find it's difficult to kind of detach yourself or from these families and having to support them, or do you feel like you attach to these families and that it helps you?
I'm pretty attached, but it's kind of a mutual thing. Most of my clients and I are still friends. We still communicate regularly. We're usually friends on Facebook as well. I get birth announcements, like I said, in Christmas cards, things like that. Little updates on how everybody's doing. And, I'll call and check on them, or send an email every now and then just to see how they're doing. And I've also had families use me as a doula more than once as well. So that's always nice. Apparently, you did a good job if they come back, a second time for another kid.
So during the beginning of this, is it difficult to kind of gain these people's trust because you're with them through a very intimate experience in life? Do you find that they sometimes have difficulties trusting you, or kind of weary, or are they all gung ho?
Most of them are pretty open to the idea. Usually, if they're looking into a doula, it's because they're comfortable with having someone else there. Usually, more comfortable than having their mother there, or than having a friend there, because they know I'm going to support them no matter what. I'm not going to be, telling them, oh, well, maybe you do want that epidural, or, I have an attachment to them, but at the same time, it doesn't bother me to see them in pain. So, whereas most women, they're having contractions or whatever, they look at their partner and they're like, I'm dying, I need an epidural, I'm in so much pain. Partner's gonna say, okay, fine, get the epidural. I'm there to be like, hey, when we discussed this a couple months ago, you didn't want an epidural. You said you want to have this completely naturally, you don't want any chemicals in your body, you don't want it affecting your baby, I'm there to kind of give them that little nudge to remind them of what they had planned on doing, because it's very easy to make a decision you might regret in a situation like that.
So about how many patients have you seen in your year of experience?
I've seen about 10 deliveries. I've attended about 10 deliveries now. Usually about one a month is about what my normal rate is. There was one month I had 3 in 1 month, which was kind of stressful. They were each about a week and a half due date apart, so I wasn't sure who was going to overlap, or if I was going to have 2 at one time or anything. But I always have a backup doula as well. So if by some crazy stroke of fate I happen to have 2 women go into labor at one time, I have a backup as well.
Well, thank you very much for your time and your energy to sit here and talk with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right, well, you can find Casey at Doula Unbound on Facebook, and she's a great advocate. Thank you very much for being here with me today.
Thank you.